Well, hello there, beautiful shrimp people. In today's video, we're tackling a big question. That is, do cherry shrimp need a heater, right? Because I get asked this daily, almost, right? But before we dive in, just remember, right, that this is just my personal opinion. Right, I'm going to share some of my experiences with you right now with heaters, and that is, I've had my fair share of ups and downs with heaters, right? I've seen them shatter in tanks through my own fault sometimes, and just sometimes broken glass is in the tank, right? I've had heaters stick on and kill entire tanks, right? So I have my own reasons for not using them in my aquariums, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't use them for every situation, right? So I'll give you some examples of that in this video today. I've seen heaters shatter, I've seen them break, I've seen, sometimes guys it's even been my own fault where I've forgotten to turn the heater off when I was doing a water change, and you fill the tank back up and they smash. And of course I've had electric shocks from heaters. I think we all have at one point had an electric shock from a heater. But that is not the hardest part, right? The hardest part is losing entire tanks to faulty heaters. I think it's happened to me twice where a heater has stuck on and killed the entire tank of shrimp. Because guys, let's be honest, there's nothing more emotionally upsetting, right? If you're passionate about your hobby, there's nothing more emotionally upsetting about losing an entire tank of shrimp because of some stupid faulty equipment that you've bought, that you trusted, you put in the tank and it fails and it kills the entire tank. Yeah, I have been very emotional at times with stuff like this before, so yeah, that is what it is. One great example of this is I lost an entire tank of Sulawesi shrimp to a faulty heater on more than 2 occasions, and both times it was avoidable. But guys, this is all, it all comes down to experience as well. You should never trust a heater on its own, right? You should always have a backup thermostat connected to it somehow, right? And we'll talk about that later on in the video as well. This is if you want to really safeguard your shrimp. If you must have a heater for some reason, this won't be for everybody, but if you must have a heater, for example, like we talked about with Sulawesi shrimp, yes, then go and get a controller for your heater. So, let's explore whether cherry shrimp really need a heater in the first place, right? Keep in mind that every shrimp keeper's experience is different. Mine is definitely different from your experiences because I live in a different country from you do. And as we mentioned before, guys, it's not just about how you use the heater, it's about where and when, and there's loads of different circumstances. Cherry shrimp adapt well to a range of temperatures, typically between 65 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I think, roughly about 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. But if your room consistently falls within this bracket, a heater might not be necessary. So for most people, this will be the case. If you live in a cooler climate than this, where your temperatures drop below that consistently, then you probably are better with a heater. So I hope you're getting the gist of this, guys, where I'm saying that the temperatures is key to a shrimp's health, right? But sharp changes in the temperature can be detrimental to them, right? So if you fall below that range that we were talking about there, then I suggest a heater because it will be beneficial for you. So if you can't naturally maintain a stable temperature like what we just discussed, then a heater is advisable. Alrighty guys, let's talk about the pros. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons. Let's talk about the pros first, because I have friends that use heaters that are professional shrimp breeders, and they use heaters simply because they can breed shrimp faster, right? So that is one of the pros of having heaters in your tanks. The other thing is you breed shrimp faster, the shrimp grow faster, you're able to produce more shrimp. So you can see how it's beneficial for a shrimp breeder to use a heater in their aquarium, right? So I would typically, if I wanted to have a lot of shrimp in a tank, typically, as I would say, I would probably aim for something like 24 degrees Celsius. You know, the other thing we didn't mention there is quite often you guys will keep fish with your cherry shrimp, so there is probably a reason why you would want to keep a heater in your tank, because I have tried to keep a lot of tropical fish without a heater before, and it's just not very good. Tropical fish are different, as in they are more sensitive to things in the water. Like, for example, if we have a tank full of tropical fish that are just sold as atypical tropical fish in an aquarium, right? The problem with this is it's too generalized, and if you have the temperature too low, these fish can be susceptible to things like fungal growth, ick, bacterial infections and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's the exception, guys, I would say, to why you probably should have a heater in your cherry shrimp tank, is if you have fish that are in there as well. Generalized fish in there as well. I mean, I have bristlenose pleco in this tank here, and they actually breed in this tank, so I know the temperature is fine. Okay, Shrimp fan, let's talk about the cons because we kind of touched on it there a little bit. There is the risk of equipment failure. Sorry, I'm having a wee burp there at the same time. There's a risk of equipment failure, the risk of heating the shatter. They can be costly. The last time I bought a heater, I think it cost me $50, which is ridiculous for a heater. I don't like that they have, most of them only have one thermostat built into the top, which is not a very good fail-safe in my opinion. And the other reason is as well, guys, when you start to have more and more aquariums like I have, having heaters is not really practical because they all have a plug, right? And I can't really have, in my room, for example, in my room I have probably 25 going on 30 aquariums, right? I can't have all the plugs for all the lights and all the heaters, right? So it's better that I don't use them. And also, guys, I think heaters are eyesores in a tank. Tanks just look so much better, you know, think without a heater. So let's talk a bit more of the safety concerns there. I've mentioned in this video that I was going to say electrocution, but I think that'd be a tad over the top. I think getting a minor electric shock would be a better word. As in, guys, I've put my hands into an aquarium before and I felt like a slight tingle, right? And I passed off as something else before, like I put my hand on the tank like this, and I thought it was just the vibration of the tank, right? But over time I thought, why does this tank feel so weird, right? And eventually I put my hand in the tank and it was the heater. The heater had actually broken, right? And I was getting a slight electric shock through the contact surfaces with the heater and the water, right? And the shrimp were in there as well. This tank was one of my Sulawesi tanks and it was one of the ones where the heater stuck on, the thing broke, and yeah, it was just an absolute nightmare. But that is one of the reasons I don't like them, is that you have this minor risk of electric shock. I think they probably have some safety thing in them that stops you getting the full current, but you basically have a cable going from the wall into the tank and then you're putting your hands in, and I don't trust them that much to begin with, so yeah, I would rather not have them in the tank. Okay, so then there is the other issues as well. How many of you guys in the comment section, or watching this video I should say, have actually had a thermostat heater actually filled with some water, right? So this is another safety issue where they're not sealed properly in the beginning, right? How many of you have actually seen condensation around the element of your little thing? This means the moisture is getting into they're just a nightmare. I don't know how they have gotten away with being so unregulated before, because ideally, guys, these things should be super watertight. There should be no risk of water getting into an electrical appliance, and they should have at least 2 backups for the thermostats inside, like for safety reasons, so that the heater, if it does malfunction, if it does stick on, it doesn't cook the entire tank or it doesn't break the glass. And yeah, I'm not sure if this was a cost-cutting thing, why they've never done it before, or if they have started to do it now, but I still don't trust them. So we have mentioned that I don't really think that heaters are that safe. Well, guys, it goes even more extreme than this, and this is maybe a little bit extreme, but I have seen many a case where heaters have actually exploded, right, where the actual glass shatters and it explodes enough with a bang that it actually breaks the tank, right? And the risk with this, guys, is not only do you lose a lot of the life in the tank, right? Most people that have aquariums will have plugs around the tank itself as well, right? So when you have glass breaking in the tank, which itself is a bad hazard, most people will have electronic equipment that is going to be affected by water. Right, so you can see the issue with this when something explodes in the tank, breaks the glass, all the water just suddenly rushes out, goes all over the cables, down cables into plugs and whatever else, right? And there is a real possibility of a fire hazard, right? I've seen plenty of videos, I've seen plenty of pictures where people have tanks where the back is actually smashed off and the wall is black, where the heater actually exploded and actually set fire to the wall at the back of their house, right? So for me, I'll never use a heater. But guys, I must stress this out, is if you do, like if I was ever to use one again, I would definitely buy a thermostat controller. Okay, Shrimp fam, so many of you will be asking, Mark, what do you do to heat your room? I'm going to show you right now, right? I like to use digital heaters. It's basically a heater, just your box standard heater that you would put in a room, and it has a digital thermostat in the front that you can control. Let me show you. This one is the one I use. This is one I've had for years. It's from a company called Mill here, and as you can see in the front, it has a little oh, I'm trying to grab it, the little knob thing here that you can turn, and it has a digital display, right? And the reason I like this type of one is because I can control the temperature of the room to a T, guys, right? So if the room falls below 20 degrees, right? So I have this one set to 20 degrees all the time. If it falls below 20 degrees, this comes on and it starts to heat the room, right? And what I also use, guys, in conjunction with this is this. This is a fan. It's just a basic fan. You can see I use this. It is very dirty from years of use. And the purpose of this, guys, is to spread the heat evenly in the room from your digital heater that you have there, right? And just think of it this way, guys, right? If any of you are cooks, right, you will know what I mean when I say this. There is quite a big difference between a fan-assisted oven and a normal oven. If any of you have cooked in both, you can verify that the fan-assisted oven cooks much more evenly through than the non-assisted fan oven. My God, I'm such a bletherer today. So you get my gist here. Use a heater with a thermostat and get yourself a fan in your room, right? And the great thing about this, guys, is most of you will already have this stuff in your rooms as it is, right? If you have just a single shrimp tank, if you have just a single cherry shrimp tank in your room, you probably already have your little heater, or you have your AC conditioning, or you have your fan. You already have this stuff there. So that answers your question again. Do you need a heater in your room for your cherry shrimp tank? The answer, in my opinion, is no. So as you can see, guys, right, there's many pros and cons to actually having heaters in or out of the tank, right? For me specifically, in my situation here, where I breed a fair amount of shrimp, I don't need heaters. I don't need a heater in the tank, right? So that saves me a lot of headache with the amount of plugs that I just don't need, right? So you have to weight up everything when you do this. If your goals are, as I mentioned before in the video, to breed tons and tons of shrimp, your sole purpose, guys, is to breed as many shrimp as possible, then possibly you should have a heater in your tank, but you should also connect it to a controller to make sure that it is ultra safe, right? Because just keep in mind as well, guys, is when you do this technique of putting the heat up on a tank to breed shrimp faster, that you're actually shortening the lifespan of the shrimp at the same time. Another thing I should make you aware of when you have heaters in the tank, if you want to artificially heat it to a higher level to breed more shrimp, is there is a massive risk of bacterial infections when you have very large colonies in a tank with a heater where the water is artificially heated, right? So that's another reason why I don't use them. I don't like having it so hot that the bacterial infection levels are much higher than normal. I'd rather just keep it like this, natural, keep it the room temperature. And anyway, guys, this is what's comfortable for me. For me personally, I think our house is heated to 21 degrees Celsius. My room in here is like 20, 21 degrees Celsius all the time anyway, right? So it makes sense for me to have it just the same. So guys, in conclusion, do you actually need a cherry shrimp heater? Do you need a heater in your cherry shrimp tank? The answer, in my opinion, is no, right? If your temperatures are roughly between 18 and 26 degrees Celsius most of the time, which is 64 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit, I would say no, you don't need a heater in your shrimp room. Just remember though that if you must have a heater, then please use a thermostat controller, a heater controller, because it is very beneficial. It gives you a little bit of peace of mind that you're not going to kill your shrimp, and that is all I've got to say on it. Alright, shrimp fam, I hope you've enjoyed today's video on my explanation on why I think you don't really need heaters in your cherry shrimp tanks. If you have found it at all helpful, then please do like and subscribe, and maybe watch another video. I did this in the last one, but I can't remember which side. It's probably this. Is it this side this time? There's going to be another video will pop up here that is relevant to this one, which is from my own collection. Please watch this, and YouTube will love me more. Thank you guys. Happy shrimp keeping.